Hi, my name is Corey Mentor. I'm here with Trinity Employment Specialist with the great Darcel. And Darcel is our expert in travel nursing. Trinity Employment Specialist is located here in Tulsa, Oklahoma, but we specialize in travel nursing all over the entire United States, and Darcel heads up the entire department for us. And what we try to do in this podcast is explain some of the differences in travel nursing versus traditional employment. Knowledge equals power. We believe in that, and we want to give as much knowledge in this industry to an existing travel nurse or someone that's looking at getting into this field. And the topic that we're talking about today are canceled contracts can happen. What do you do? And who can cancel contracts? Can you cancel contracts? I mentioned earlier, it's very much like if you sign a contract to buy a car. Well, you've actually got to pay for that car. Well, the same thing is if you sign a contract with a hospital, you've got to fulfill that contract. But there are some exceptions, and we talked about that real quick. So I want to overview real quick the 2 points that we've already talked about. The first one is that the hospital can cancel the contract. Generally, Darcel went over it really quickly. A lot of times that happens during census, and if their census is down, they have the ability to cancel the contract. However, that does not happen very often at all. But just because of COVID just recently, it really switched up the ball game. Hospital censuses went down into the dirt. They canceled a lot of contracts. However, what's really weird is the crisis rates for COVID has increased. So we are in a weird time period here. The second point is that nurses can cancel contracts, but it's not advised unless there is a serious situation. The reason is because the VMS or the vendor management service provider that we are contracted with, they keep tabs on every nurse that works with them. They share this information, and you can get blackballed and never work in travel nursing until, I don't even know what kind of time limit they put on it.
No, there's no time frame.
Yeah, and so
it's 10 years.
For example, if you got in there and you didn't like the people you were working with and you just walked off the job, listen, they will take note, and it'll be very, very difficult for you to get another contract.
Absolutely.
And so there's a process at how you handle your business, and if you don't handle it properly, they will mark you, and it'll be very difficult for you to work. So hospitals can cancel contracts. Nurses can cancel contracts for different reasons. Now, talk about real quickly if a nurse cancels a contract because you've got a death in the family or something like that. What does that look like?
I would advise the nurse at that point not to cancel a contract. Okay, even you have your regular job, that your job will give you so many days for bereavement.
I was about to say, listen, you've got a funeral coming up.
Absolutely. So you have that bereavement time. So what we will do is talk to the manager, the facility, let them know you have a funeral. We could attach that week to the end of your contract, and they will work with us with that.
Really?
Absolutely.
So they'll give them actually a week sometimes.
Yes, they give them a week because again, you got to realize they're not in their home state. They got to travel back home. They got to get everything lined out. So they give them at least 7 days. If they need 10, they will give them that. But all those days will be attached to the end of their contract. In other words, that date that we have set for the 13 weeks, they would just attach that other time to the end.
So there are all sorts of different options if you're willing to talk about it. So really think about that. There's some flexibility there, but just canceling the contract. I went into in our last video, I went into the process that when Trinity very first started, before we hired Darcel, we started submitting candidates to our VMS providers, and we did not submit the documents in the right way. And literally, they blackballed us for that. It took us a long time, and the fact that Darcel had a reputation for Trinity to be able to get our reputation back. It is very true. They can blackball you, and they will. In fact, I'm surprised at how quickly they were willing to.
They will.
So it really does matter how you handle your business. The second thing is are the consequences of canceling a contract. We went over that they can blackball you.
Yes.
What are some other things, Darcel?
Well, they could blackball you, but I specifically talked to that nurse. If she's him and hawing, I don't know if I want to do the contract, because that's where you find nurses that cancel.
Right.
Okay, they're not solid enough to know I want to do this 13 weeks. They want to try it, but if I see some fluctuation in the nurse, how she's, I don't know, but what if this, and asking a lot of questions. At that point, I said, well, what you really need to do is try to get a shorter term contract, and try it out, because that's where you find your new contract nurse.
Right.
They're really leery, they're intimidated about it, and I tell them, try to do a contract in your home state, do a shorter term contract, and get a feel for it, because those are the nurses that will definitely cancel on you.
Right.
Because they're nervous. So I try to talk to them before they sign that contract. Okay.
Right.
Yeah. And the other thing is, if you don't want to do the contract, why? Give me a good explanation. What is going on at that facility where we could help you? Can we walk you through this?
Right.
Talk to the manager. Let them know there's some issues going on. We need to address them.
Mm-hmm.
And then we could iron it out that way, because it is very important once you sign that line to complete that contract.
Well, at Trinity, we staff for every area of the hospital. And Darcel, I'll just tell you, like, some of the reasons that I hear that people just walk off the job and the way that they handle their business, it's pretty shocking to me. It just doesn't, like, I know the way that VMSs work.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I know that nurses can get used to this in a clinical setting or in a hospital setting in traditional employment. And you realize, as a nurse, they realize, well, there are plenty of options somewhere else. In this particular arena, this is not the way to handle your business.
No.
I know this is a cultural movement right now where people will just walk off the job and treat their employer poorly. And I'm not saying that because we're an employer, but it is true.
Well, because in travel nursing, they're making $3,000. You got agency B over there saying, I can pay you more money.
Right.
And so they try to maneuver that. That's the first thing. That's a no-no, because they already know that you've been submitted. Don't play that. They don't play that game.
Right.
Absolutely. We had an instance here where Cassie had a nurse that wanted to be submitted through Trinity, but then when I talked to Hastings, somebody had already submitted her.
Okay.
And they don't play that game.
Right.
Yeah, they do not do that.
So they canceled that nurse altogether?
Yeah, they did, because that's what happens. So it's very important to communicate with your recruiter. Let them know, because even if we get instances, they say, well, I didn't know I was submitted. That agency do not want to hear that.
Right.
It's not, because their contract with both agencies. So if someone else submitted them, we can't go in there and say, oh, they want to work with us.
Right.
That doesn't work in this type of travel business.
Okay. Well, our next point is, are there any guarantees?
There's really no guarantees. But the no guarantees, what they will say, and when we sign the contract, and the nurse will see it on the contract, that we could cancel 1 to 2 shifts.
Right.
So that is the only thing. So you're going to get your 13 weeks, but they might cancel you 1 day here or 1 day there. But the whole contract will not be canceled unless the census drop, which is hardly ever happens. It hardly ever happens.
It has just recently, but this is unprecedented type of stuff that we're dealing with.
Yeah.
Last thing is, I want to make sure we have enough time. Do we have enough time here? Okay, we need to wrap up here real quick. So just real quickly, Darcel, what do you do if you are canceled?
Well, if you're canceled, immediately call your recruiter.
Okay.
Just don't walk off the job if they tell you you're canceled. Call us and let us know, and then we in turn call the facility, find out what happened, and then we could find you another contract. So don't give up hope. Even though you're canceled, we want to walk you through that process as well.
Well, and even if so, if the hospital does tell you you're canceled, I would definitely want to follow what Darcel is saying, so that we can help walk you through handling it the right way.
Correct.
So that you don't get any kind of blemishes on your record, even if it's just a misunderstanding. So hopefully this has given you some good advice on how to handle any kind of canceled contracts. So this is probably going to be for our existing travel nurses that are wondering how this happens.
Absolutely.
But if Trinity can help you out in any way, what we want to do is be of great value to our travel nurses in the form of good information. If we can help you at all, give us a call. Call and talk to Darcel at 918-622-2588, or you can visit us online at trinityemployment.com.